as I was reading, these are supposed to be thinking routines that you do daily, not just every once in a while to wow a lesson. It should be something that is part of your everyday. So any lesson, anything you do, you can use one or several of these. And the times that I've done it with my classroom, they get excited about it, and I'm amazed at hearing how different kids are thinking about one topic. So we're going to just share a few things. This is the tip of the iceberg. There are over 100 different thinking strategies that Harvard's come up with. We learned about 4 or 5 of them. And as I was reading this article, they shared a few more that I need to do this presentation again in a few months, and I will have more to share. But anyway, some of the strategies that that we learned about. Are we doing? The first one is claim support. And I have a bulletin board that I put up here. As we started reading James and the Giant Peach last week, and after the first or second, well, I guess it was 3 or 4 chapters into it, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker are 2 of the main characters in the story, and this giant peach has grown on their old decrepit tree, and they're deciding whether or not they should eat this juicy peach. This tree has never produced a single peach, and so I asked the question, should Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker cut into the big juicy peach? And the kids on their own said yes or no. I think I had 2 kids that said yes, they should. And it was, I said, you know, whatever your idea is, that's fine. Just put it down there. But then you have to come up with as many reasons to support or to justify your reasoning. And so after they did that, they all shared. And I think Jack Sims was one of the kids that said yes, they should cut into it. And he felt bad that he said, I put the wrong answer. And the kids said, no, that's okay. So it's really neat that they were justifying, that they were supporting each other, even though
their answers were
different. Had they started the book yet?
Yes,
okay,
we had read 4 chapters, but at the end of this
point,
chapter,
okay.
They didn't know whether
they have to support from information they had read or just what they thought.
What they
thought. Okay.
Some of them said, I don't think they should because they don't deserve it. They're mean and nasty and don't deserve having any food. And some of the kids said no because James should get it. They had different reasons, but some of them came up with 1 or 2 reasons. Some of them came up with more than that. But after they listened to each other, if I had asked them to do it again, think of how many ideas that they would have come up with. So sharing the ideas and listening to why, it opened up. A lot of times as teachers, we give our input and our information and forget that all these little people have so much more to offer. And it really gives you an opportunity to learn from the kids and think about where they're coming from, because they're often coming from so many different places that we don't even think about. Okay, so that's one of them, claim support. And you could do that with anything. Do you think, any kind of questions?
My kids have been wanting a class pet. So I did it where, okay, they had to claim, you know, what kind of class pet they think we should get, and then they had to give good reasons why this class pet. You know, and to hear what they had to say, I mean, they really, I mean, it could, you know, had to be, you know, this animal is quiet, this animal is small, this animal, you know, and all this, so it's like, okay, they justified, you know, so it made them really think. It wasn't like, I think you came in the room and you're like about the elephant or something, and I said, you know, it couldn't be like an elephant or something like that because, you know, you can't have an elephant roaming around the room, so they had to really think about what we could really have and stuff. So it's just really getting them to think, but then also it's letting them take responsibility also and ownership of it. So I thought that was, you know, sorry, y'all, the next thing we're going to talk about is, Melissa has it on her board over there, is what do you see, what do you think, what do you know? It's kind of like the KWL chart. She has where you can see a picture of a tree. So she had the kids say, okay, so what do you see? So they just describe, you know, look at that picture, what do you see? And then what do you think is going on in this picture? And then what do you wonder? Well, I had my kids, I put up a picture up on the Promethean board, a picture of, this was a picture taken in Africa where you have 2 elephants crossing the water, and this is actually a waterfall, but they didn't know any of this going on. So they had to just look at it and say, okay, what do I see here? You had some kids just put an elephant, a water tree. You had some that just really did more thinking or writing about it. What do you think's going on? I had some kids saying, you know, they're, you know, crossing the water, they're eating. I mean, just things. It's just neat to hear what they have to say and then what they wonder. Some of them said, "Are there more elephants behind the picture? Are there babies coming? Is a mommy there?" And all this. Are they gonna? Some kids said, "Is that a waterfall?" So it actually was. I mean, it was just great. The ideas that they came up with. Well, then it was wonderful how it all kind of tied in. It just happened that my father, he came in like that week later, and he actually took this picture. So he was able to tell the kids exactly, answer all their wondering questions. So that was just really cool because we went a little step further, which we didn't plan it, but so the kids were like, oh wow, so it really got them excited about what they wrote about and everything. So this, and you can just change it like once a week, however, I mean, not once a week, you can do it every 2 or 3, but however you want to do
whatever.
it.
You could do it, it can be an object. You could bring in
yes.
a flag or a picture of the Liberty Bell if you're studying whatever you're doing. It can be an object, a picture, something that you pull up on your Promethean board.
And I think they'll just get more and more, the more you do it, the more they're like, oh, okay, you know, I see this, you know, it's just neat to see what their brains are thinking.
Yeah. The picture that is back here, before we started reading James and the Giant Peach, this is what I Xeroxed. And the kids, some of the kids said, I see a tree, or a dead tree. Or I see, if you look closely, and I had them walk closely, I see a spider. And you're like, wow, this little guy saw the details, and this one saw the whole picture. And then, what do you think? Well, I think this is a tree in the wintertime, or I think this tree is dead, or I think this is a tree in a haunted house, or in front of a haunted house. So it was just amazing, and it's really neat to see what's going on in their little minds. Okay, another one is called CSI, Color Symbol Image, and we had also did this with James and the Giant Peach after we read about 5 or 6 chapters, and we listed all of the characters that had been introduced, and I had them choose one character from the story, any character that they wanted to, and in the C part of the C is for color. Pick a color that they think of when they're thinking about that character, and they color the whole box or a square in that box. Then think of a symbol, like if it were a teacher, they might put a pencil or an apple. For James, you know, different symbols, but they're going to have to then explain what they put. So something that represents that character, and then under I is image. That's a picture of that character, and they wrote the character's name down here, and then they shared their answers. And a lot of the kids chose the ladybug for this certain. Probably 5 or 6 kids chose ladybug, but they chose different colors, and some of them, a lot of them chose red, but some chose red because ladybugs are red, or most ladybugs are red. Some chose red because red is a warm color and ladybug is a nice character. Some chose red. They all had different reasons for explaining it. It's really neat to see that happening. So you could, again, do this with pretty much anything that you're doing, mostly with characters, but so that's another fun one.
Also, you can see, I think on your pamphlet, here's the I see, I think, I wonder, and we've got a copy for everybody in the back. I think I did not have you guys, but I can get copies for you when I gave you the packet earlier. These 3 in the back, I think you have that. And then another thing we learned about was called headlines, and Melissa has hers up back there. And this is great, where you can actually take it could be a paragraph or any kind of, like, you can find the topic sentence, or you can find, read a little paragraph, and then they find the main idea. And like, okay, what do you think the main idea? And just very briefly, just let them come up with the headline of what this article is about. Or you can have them, like yesterday we read a book, a little children's book or anything, and we got into it, and I was like, okay, now let's get back to our seats, and you give it a title. What would you name this book if you could name it? And it's just, I mean, what they came up with, I mean, it's hilarious. Just different things, but it all ties in with the story. And it's great. I haven't used it yet with like the main idea, but that's one of the things that, as a teacher, I do kind of struggle sometimes getting the kids to get the main idea. So I was like, this is great. Let them read it and then tell me, okay, what do you think? What's the main idea of this little paragraph? You know, and then they can come up with it, and then we can talk about it with each other. Melissa did the chapter 1 out of James and the Giant Peach. And what she did is she had each of them change the.
What would you name that the chapter? These chapters are just numbered, so it was perfect because there was no name. So they each came up with a different name, and we've done that a few times. You could do it with a lesson after you've taught a lesson on government or soil or habitats, you could ask them, okay, I just taught, what did we learn today? Give it a lesson, and you can put that up. And it doesn't always have to be written down. They can just share out. But then you can see what did they learn? What was it that they picked up from that lesson? And then you can actually, if they didn't get the point that you were trying to get across, maybe you need to reteach that or come at it in a different way.
And it's a great way to reinforce it, because then it goes into their schema. And if the title, like you were saying, even coming up with their own title, if the title wasn't meaningful, then theirs that they came up or somebody else's, now they remember a lot of the other details.
And then one of my kids, they were like, what if we got the same title? I said, it's okay.
Right.
I said, that's fine. I said, you just.
Sometimes great minds think alike,
Exactly.
and sometimes divergent thinking is cool too.
Yeah. I'm going to send this to all of you guys, this article on Make Thinking Visible. If I had read this sooner, I would have done a PowerPoint. But they're saying that there are 6 key principles that anchor visible thinking. And I can read them just briefly, quickly to you, but I'll send them out through an email. But 1, learning is a consequence of thinking, so that students' understanding of content and even their memory for content increases when they think through the concepts and information that they are studying. I know for me, after I went to the seminar, we got in the car and we would sit there and we would talk about it, and that really, it put it from a place just like floating in my brain, like it stored it somewhere in my brain, and then just talking stuff through really sinks it into a better place in your brain. And at least for me, it's very helpful. Another one is good thinking is not only a matter of skills, but also a matter of dispositions, open-mindedness, curiosity, attention to evidence, skepticism, and imagination are all made for good thinking. And it talks about education needs to promote open-mindedness rather than closed-mindedness, and curiosity over indifference, and so on and so forth. So having kids share their opinions, even if they're completely different, that's okay. That's good. We want that. The development of thinking is a social endeavor. We learn from those around us and our engagement with them. Fostering thinking requires making thinking visible. Thinking happens mostly in our heads, invisible to others, and even to ourselves. Effective thinkers make their thinking visible. Classroom culture sets the tone for learning and shapes what is learned. Schools must be cultures of thinking for teachers. So not just for the students, but the faculty high above needs to support this amongst all of ourselves, and that's kind of what we're doing here. But and then the overall goals of visible thinking. The long-term standing goals of visible thinking approach is deepening learning in the content areas and fostering thinking skills and dispositions. And we've just done, these 3 or 4 things, and it's just so exciting.
Also Wordle too.
Yeah.
The
Wordles.
things. I think, Mary, you've done a lot of that in Science Lab and everything, but you just Mason King, last weekend, he was telling me all the different, I guess y'all had to describe
themselves.
And he was telling me everything that he described himself as, and then I started saying things to him. Oh, I didn't think to tell about that about me, So it just got him really talking about who, what. Then I said something because it's got to be one word that's carved out about me, and it's just then you put a big, I can't talk, world. That's neat because it got him thinking too, and I thought that was cool how he made a connection with me over the weekend about that.
So as we learn about more strategies and techniques, we'll definitely share them and pass them on and make it as easy for you by sending this kind of stuff, which you don't have to use this format, but trying to make it as easy for you because it's exciting and it's neat to see what's going on in their little minds.
And if you have any questions, because it didn't make any sense about something, just let us know. Because we're learning too.
Thank you.